What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are talking Tesla Q3 2023 earnings. Yes, this is the first current event video I will be doing. I talked about this in the weekly update that I wanted to get a video out on this because of the fact Elon gives a good pulse of the market. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide weekly updates as well to get you prepared for the week ahead and current events. Now, I'm not going to do this for every earnings, but something I even talk about in the weekly updates is that I typically pick out specific earnings because I feel like it holds more weight. That's what I want to kind of do with the current events and then go from that point. So this is the first video on that. So go ahead and drop a like button just because it is the first video. So with that being said, again, like I stated, I think Elon gives a good pulse in the market, and that's why I wanted to kind of capture this current event, kind of go over what's happening. As far as Tesla is shown over the past this Q3 earnings, they've essentially missed on everything. And yes, the notes are pointing towards a lot of different things that you need to be paying attention to, things that I've been talking about for a while. And I'm not just stating these things to essentially try to just be a bear, right? Like I'm trying to legitimately find a bottom. And, the best time you're going to find a turning point is in these earnings. And as of right now, I think we are very close. And just going over this earnings, I can tell you that I think we are extremely close to bottoming for great companies like Tesla and then moving forward. So let's dive right in. So the revenue was 43.4 billion. Estimate was 24.6 billion. Adjusted EPS 66 cents. Estimated was 74 cents. Free cash flow came in at 848 million versus an expected 2.59 billion. And then gross margin, which was something huge. A lot of people were watching coming into this earnings because gross margin for Tesla has been on the decline over the past couple quarters. And on this one, it came in at 7.9% versus estimated 18%. So it came down a little bit lower than that because I think we are getting closer to a bottom for Tesla. And then as I go over these are notes. I just got off the conference call from Tesla, and I took some own personal notes of what I thought was really important out of that conference call. And again, what we're looking for here is trying to determine what next steps are in the economy, how Tesla's withstanding the current economic conditions, and kind of their outlook. A little bit about Tesla in itself. Again, I don't want to get too much in about Tesla. I want to kind of more gauge where it's at as far as that company, right? I believe Tesla is one of the best companies, if not the best company currently out there. And so with that being said, I want to gauge and see where they're at. So as far as the notes that I took, I think these are some of the big ones that he started out with. Obviously, AI is still a very hot topic. He said it's a game changer, and Tesla could be essentially the most valuable company in the world. Now, again, every company is going to say that, but when Elon says it, he says it with a little bit more pizzazz, like he means it, right? And so, and I do believe he is very smart, and he works, 10 times harder than the average CEO. And with that being said, I do believe they will have the prime AI solution, and as the way Elon put it, is by far the best real world AI team, period, is what he's had said. So in my opinion, I do believe that's the case. I do believe with the current market sentiment that Tesla in itself is looking to focus a lot more of their weight on AI and trying to take advantage of the current market state to propel itself in the future over the next coming years. So with that being said, energy contributed to $500 million. Energy is still doing very well. It was one of their high contributors to them staying afloat. And then you have the Cybertruck was obviously a big talk coming out, this one as well. He really said just to temper expectations and the challenges of production in the future. Given obviously the current market sentiment, there's a lot of people out there that can't afford a vehicle at this point. So, and understand that, Tesla or Elon himself is always about innovation. He always talks about innovation. So even though that product may come out and people may love it, he's saying it's not going to really be where he wants it, right? Where Elon wants it, he said maybe 3 years. And then there was multiple questions that had come up. And essentially what had happened was he kind of adjusted and said, well, maybe more like 18 months, but that's still, it still really just depends. But ultimately, he feels that the Cybertruck will get to a point roughly around 3 years where it will be like the most pristine truck out there on the line. And he said, again, the biggest problem being is production, right? Like it's easy to come up with concepts. He was mentioning about vehicles, but to mass produce that is extremely hard. And so, and then he tried to obviously compare the Cybertruck. There's nothing else comparable with the Cybertruck. So to try to produce that is a very, very strenuous and uh, hard thing to essentially accomplish, right? And so ultimately, that's where he pretty much stood on the Cybertruck. And then deliveries will start on November 30th. There's already 1 million reservations. So again, they're going to continue to work on the production, right? This is what they did with their own Model 3s and Model Ys. It took a little while, but now they're just mass producing them like crazy. It's just going to be the same trek when it comes to the Cybertruck, but there's a lot of hype around the Cybertruck because it is different. So that was a big takeaway for the Cybertruck. He's worried about high interest rates, and they were mentioning about the essentially the factory in Mexico, and he said it's gonna. He didn't quite say stalling, but it will go essentially at a regular pace. He's not in any hurry essentially to build out the Mexico factory. And if he notices that there's a massive decline in the economy, as he was kind of alluding to, that there's just too much uncertainty in the world as of right now, and that even with the high interest rates, that they may have to dial back. He said that a lot of these things could be built. So they have plenty of space in Texas to be able to actually continue to build out there if need be. But ultimately, that they're still going forward with the Mexico factory, that it's something they still want to build, but it's just going to be maybe at a slower rate given the current economy. So that's kind of what he mentioned there. And then, like I said, by far went back into AI a lot. He talked about robo taxi. He talked about Optimus, and he really said that again, that those are the best real world AI team. Period. And I do believe that is they do look for very top talent. They look for people that are dedicated to their work. And Elon has shown that, building out Tesla, he's shown that those are the kind of people he hires, and that you live your work, right? And that's the kind of team he has. And so he's always talked about, they may not have to be the brightest, but ultimately, if their work habits are good and they're working, twice as long in a week, that you can make up time. It may take a team 5 years to make. He could probably do it in 2.5 years, just because of the amount of time they put into everything. And so those are kind of team members he looks for. So I do believe him when he talks about, by far being the best real world AI team. And right now would be ideal to be able to do that. He did mention in the last conference call for Q2 that he was very much all about the NVIDIA chips. He wanted to get as many as they could because of this fact. This year is about building infrastructure, and potentially the first half of next year, and then we'll start to see more so of what's going on with that. But he was really quiet about the Optimus program. He didn't really want to say too much about it. All he really wanted to say was, that uh, essentially robots could barely walk, and then now that at this point they're dancing, and then hopefully they can actually do ballet in a couple of years. So, and he's mentioned this about autonomous vehicles as well a lot, that it takes a very long time, and people's expectation of that it's just going to be easy, that you just get the hardware and it's just plug and go. And it's not the case, because you are training a robot and you need a lot of real world data, and they have some of the best real world data in the world, as they've had, Tesla's been driving around and they all have cameras on them. So they're taking and absorbing a lot of data, more so than anything else. Any other product out there doesn't even come close to the amount of data that Tesla has. So So, and that's what you need to train these AI is good data and a lot of it, and they have it. So they do have a massive leg up on that aspect of it. And so again, really feeding into something that I do believe that is going to separate them even more. And again, they are pulling more away from autos, right? And understand that they want to have this robo taxi going on, and why even sell cars anymore when you could just rent the service of a car, right? And so he's trying to make everything, just our world, a lot better so that we aren't producing more waste as well. So with that being said, that's another aspect of robo taxi. He didn't really get into robo taxi too much, but even more so was just mentioning again AI and what was driving everything. And then they did dive a little bit more into some economic stuff. He was very shocked that Credit Suisse Bank went under. I said, the bank has been around for 160 some years, and all of a sudden it's just gone. It was very shocking to him. He does feel that there is a bit more shoes to drop with the regional commercial real estate. He does feel that same way as well. So these are things that I've talked about multiple times on this channel because they are big problems. And then he did mention a little bit about credit card debt at being around 20%, that people are just never going to get out of debt. And that it is a very, very rough time in the world. And then one thing to mention too here as well is that there is no change in their Bitcoin holdings. They're still holding all their Bitcoin. They haven't sold any. And then ultimately understand that we are going to proceed with caution. And he did mention, this is one thing that he brought up, is he mentions, Tesla is one of the best companies in the world, and something I've always said. Again, I'm not trying to be biased here, but just trying to be realistic here. This is why I say to buy specific stocks that everybody knows, because during a bad storm, they're going to be able the ones to survive. And even Elon said, no matter what happens in a bad storm, everybody is affected. So they will take blows. And we're seeing that, right? They missed on everything. And so I do expect downgrades and sell-offs tomorrow. I expect Tesla to pull way back. But in my opinion, again, this is not financial advice. This is probably going to be one of the best dips to buy on Tesla. Not saying that we can't go lower, because I talked about pricing in a recession. That is very much a strong possibility. So we have to be careful on that aspect. But again, the highlights of what I've had here are things that I think are very, very meaningful moving forward, because I do believe Tesla will be the leader in AI. Elon has always been the leader in whatever he's put his mind to, when it's come to cars, when it's come to rockets, when it's come to Twitter, right? Or now, which is now X. I believe he's going to build out X the same way. And then he'll be industry leading in that, and he'll be industry leading in AI. And the fact that that's his background is something that, a lot of other competitors need to be worried about, because Tesla, or Elon himself, is going to guide that and make sure that it happens. Because if nothing else, he will put in the effort. He's a CEO that is willing to get his hands dirty for the better of humankind, right? And so to understand that, and just his drive is very unique and very different from many others. And again, I'm not trying to just be a super fan of Elon. I'm not at all, but I'm a pretty good judge of character. And that being said, you can see the passion he has for what he does. And there is very few CEOs, there's very few people that are working in a field in which they have so much passion for, that you can just hear it in their voice and the way they talk about what they're doing. And Elon is one of those people. He gets very excited about what he does. And again, you don't see that very often. So like technical wise, what we're really looking at, again, there's a big sell-off. If we drop down after hours, obviously Tesla's selling off pretty heavy. You missed in all aspects. All the algorithm really cares about is that you missed really bad. And so again, this is the first tech company. Netflix did pretty good. They were actually raising rates, but ultimately understand, I've talked about Netflix, and I don't want to really get into Netflix here because obviously it's cheap entertainment. So obviously they're going to raise the rates because they really got nothing else. But when you talk about Tesla, ultimately right now, they are they're going to take a hit. They're going to get the downgrades. They're going to sell off. But again, they are primed to when the market recovers. They will be leading the way. And so ultimately, again, I'm watching to see, again, we're selling off now. I wouldn't be surprised if it gapped down because of the misses and then the downgrades tomorrow. Definitely, if you're playing to the downside, if you play short term at all, it would probably be a good play to the downside tomorrow. But ultimately, kind of watching this wedge here tomorrow. So kind of roughly watching around that 225, see if it breaks that. And then watching these key levels, the 207 tomorrow, watching the 170. If we start really selling off 150, again, we really have to see. It's something I've always talked about is going into earnings, you're going to get a nice pump. We've had that. We saw that pump going into the last earnings cycle. And this is a pullback I talked about after an earnings cycle, and then you got a nice pump up again. And then we've kind of just been chopping going into earnings. So this one here, expect another pullback. Expect to break below this wedge. Again, given current market sentiment, have to remember that if there's more bad news coming from Apple, from Amazon, from any of these other big seven that have been holding up the market, which I'm expecting now because Tesla didn't beat anything, that could put more weight on the downside. We could start pricing a recession with the conflicts going on in the world and everything else. This is what I'm talking about. So this could be the month that we price in a recession. I think we won't be increasing rates any point at this time because of the fact that we only got 2 more left, and the next interest rate is in about a week, 2 weeks now. So being said, interest rates, I think, are something that if it's going to happen, it's going to be pushed off till next year. We're still waiting for a lot of loans to mature before that to happen. And we're seeing that now that some of them are starting to mature, that it's starting to bankrupt companies. And so, again, if we could price in a recession now, ideally, this would really be a good time, again, not financial advice, to be buying Tesla on the dip, right? And so I'm really watching these key levels on the downside, especially tomorrow. I want to see how heavy the selling is going to get. And then go from that point. But again, I want to get overzealous. Again, like pointed out here, after earnings, we sold off. You have about a 3 to 4 week window where the stock will just sell off. So to be safe, I would give it probably 2 weeks, kind of see where we land. If we start to hover around 200, or maybe we drop down to 175 and just kind of hover there and start accumulating, it could be a good sign for that it could be turning, and that may be the bottom of Tesla. And so those are kind of really what I'm watching and kind of what I wanted to display with the current events. So if you really did like this current event, please leave a comment what you liked about it, what I could improve on. Also drop a thumbs up if you made it this far, because I do appreciate you. If you do like these videos, let me know with drop in a comment or a thumbs up, so I can kind of gauge if you like the current events, and I'll try to get more of these current events out to you. Aside from that, I hope everybody's having a great evening. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.